Hello and welcome everyone to today's presentation of Studsvik. My name is Stefan Knutsson. I'm an equity analyst here at ABG, and with me today I have the CEO of Studsvik, Camilla Hoflund. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start to introduce myself. My name is Camilla Hoflund and I'm the CEO of Studsvik AB. Studsvik is a nuclear technology company. We create value to the nuclear industry by supporting the industry with efficient and safe solutions. We have a long experience of nuclear technologies and facilities, more than 70 years. Today's presentation will take you on a journey, talking about who we are, what we want, how to make it, what has been achieved, and the future. Next page, please, number 2. Our company, the Nuclear Technology Company, is listed on Nasdaq Stockholm Small Cap with the sales about 650 million SEK. We are about 500 employees and have a very strong global presence. Our vision is to develop sustainable solutions for the nuclear industry. Nuclear power is a very important energy source, and Studsvik's position is to support nuclear power to reduce the CO2 emissions for the entire world. Thereby, people can benefit from clean nuclear energy. Our mission is to combine our 70 years of experience with new way of thinking, IT solutions, technologies, to create innovative solutions to our customers' problem. In principle, we want to make the impossible possible. Next slide, please. Our customers are represented by the utilities, vendors, research organizations, and regulators. As you can see, we have a very global customer base. In US, Studsvik has a very strong footprint for the utilities, where we support with efficient fuel optimization. In Europe, we also support with reactor operation, lifetime extension programs, and as well as the decommissioning phase, where the reactors have been shut down, such as in Germany and Switzerland. Another interesting example is Asia, where we are working with customers in China, the largest growing new build country. One of our key initiatives beyond nuclear is medical isotope production, packaging of highly irradiated sources to our customer, Ägde, and their gamma knife. We have one-of-a-kind automated robotic installation in Sweden. We have produced 2 packages that has been successfully installed at the end customer for Ägde. During next year, we will ramp up the production. Next slide, please. Although we started with improvement programs and worked in our key strategies already in 2018, 2019 started very tough for us. We came out with a very disappointing Q1. However, at the end of the year, we could actually start to see the positive impact from our improvement programs, and Q4 ended up with a very strong performance. Next slide, please. Moving a little bit more into what we want. And these 3 are our key financial group targets. 10% growth, 8% operating margin, and 40% solidity. We have also communicated these targets externally. And later in my presentation, I will come back to our performance on the targets. Moving from what we want to how to make it. This is a very interesting slide. I can talk about it for a very long time, but let's start with Studsvik's position in the nuclear industry. We offer a wide range of offerings, niched, highly specialized, and in some areas we are actually world leading within the whole nuclear power life cycle. That can sound a lot, but remember we are very niched and focused. And we cover from new build to reactor operation, to decommissioning, and to final disposal. are very important to support the full power life cycle. A little presentation of each of our business areas. Let me start with fuel and materials technology. It is a world-leading hot cell testing capabilities where we can characterize and test fuel, materials, water chemistry. All these components and competencies are very important for the whole life cycle, which means that we actually offer our services in the full life cycle. For scan power, that supports the world-leading software to optimize the fuel, it is the same story. The fuel is the fuel, meaning that it's very important to optimize the fuel, whether you are in qualification of new build, in operation phase, or actually in decommissioning and final storage. Waste treatment technology. We offer technologies that optimize the volumes of the waste, but as important is to stabilize the waste for final disposal or interim disposal. Reactors today operate and generate waste, but we also in many countries have a history of legacy waste, and our technologies are suitable for both the new waste coming from the operations, but also from the legacy waste. In Germany, we have a people business where we support the reactor, mainly support the reactor shutdowns within decommissioning, but also within the nuclear operation of the nuclear power plants. And we have a very strong brand in our people business in Germany. Let's take the next slide, please. How to make it? I mentioned before that already 2018, and before that, beyond that, we had some very important key strategies. And let me share some of the important strategies with you. New market, of course, we could see that we have done a lot of good testing technologies, qualifications for fuel and materials in Europe and in US, and it came as a natural next step to move into new markets like Asia. And you also might have seen the press releases we had on new orders for China and Korea. Of course, coming with new orders and a high demand, we also internally need to focus on how to deliver and make sure that we actually can ramp up in the necessary speed. So we have a very strong focus on ramping up both with competent people with the right competencies, as well as in facilities and increase the capabilities over time. Also, with the history we came from 2018-19, we also had cash improving activities, really from the very beginning of the order to all the way to the deliveries. As a small company, we are very sensitive if we have customers that are delayed with payments. Very briefly on some of the key activities, we have reviewed the business within waste management and decided to really focus on where we have our strong strength and competence, meaning waste. That means that some of the more resource consultancy that we had in the past has been exited, and also we have exited some of the non-profitable markets. For the German operation, we have made a full turnaround, meaning everything from management to organization, commercial customer contracts, cost savings, etc. And of course, as everyone else, we always look at the cost and try to be more efficient for us headquarters and administration. Next slide, please. How to make it? Of course, we have to think about, we are a small company, as you know, working on a very global scale with global customers, big customers. So we have agreed on some of the very key success factors for us. Of course, the priority one is that we have to have something on the table, meaning we are world leading in some very specific areas and very high technology areas, and we have to invest and continue to develop in new methods, new techniques, technologies, competencies. And also we have to have access to the global customers, because many of our customers are much bigger than our organization. So we have to navigate quickly to get to the right decision makers and also to present our value to the customer and the customer decision makers. As a company, I already mentioned, very important for us is the DNA in the company is to combine experience from working in the nuclear industry with innovative way of thinking, new way of thinking, and challenging old existing habits and models. As an organization, we have to be flexible and agile, meaning we have to quickly adapt when it comes to changes on the markets or if the customer requires flexibility and changes. Next slide, please. So I mentioned to you that I will come back to what has been achieved when we refer to our financial group targets. On the net sales side, we have a group target of 10% yearly. And in some periods, we have been above that target, which I think is very good progress. I still would say we have a way to go, but we are definitely aiming for reaching that target. On the operating margin, we can see a strengthening of the margin, same as for the growth. We are sometimes over, but we also have to continue to make sure that we are stable on a good level, meaning the target of the group 8%. For the solidity, maybe we can say that we are in line actually with the group targets. Next slide, please. Other important measures for our businesses, of course, we mentioned it before, the free cash flow, and over 12 months rolling, you can see that it has actually improved over the time. And we have to have a very strong cash focus in our group, again, as we are a sensitive small company doing with big customers and on a global market. The net debt equity ratio has also gradually strengthened our financial position. And finally, the measure is average number of employees. And of course, with the restructuring we had of one of the business areas, waste treatment technology, we did exit of some business, which also means that we reduced staff, and we also reduced some of the markets. So all in all, we have reduced the number of employees with the purpose of really focusing on the key and make sure that we focus on the operation and try to efficient the administration and support part to the business. Next slide, please. Our journey. To summarize a little bit our journey on the way. 1st of January 2018, I was asked to take on the assignment as CEO for Studsvik. I have been a very long time in this company and worked for many years with customers globally with technical background. And of course, this was a very, very interesting challenge, which I knew it was going to be. Because the task was, of course, to improve the profitability from where we came from, but also review the different business areas and assess both the customer and commercial agreements, but also internally, the organization and the structures. Stating that, we could say that 2018 started off with some of our improvement programs. We did some cost savings at headquarter administration, but it wasn't enough. So we started 19, as I told you before, with a very tough start, but we also started to see that our plans and turnarounds from 18-19 started to kick off in end of 2019. 2020 was actually a year where we could start to see the improvements pretty early in the year. But then, of course, as everyone else, we had the COVID-19 that created a little bit uncertainties for everyone, and especially if you're a leader for a company. Despite the COVID-19 and the big changes that everyone had to adapt to with working from home, trying to do sales and market activities by digital platforms, I think all in all, we can say that we managed to keep the business in a very good shape so far, and also managed to close some important deals, even if it was by digital platforms, which it hasn't been in the past, I can tell you. And the future, looking forward and a little bit into the future, what we can expect and what we can see. We can take the next slide. As I already mentioned, it's very, very important for us work towards our vision. We have the strong technology, strong DNA technology, and now combined with a very commercial approach, I think that that starts to see, and we start to see the payback of that. This is a very big business, big industry, but the relations with the customers are very important. I think everyone says that, but these are very long-term relations. So we have to build on our long-term relations. We have to make sure that we increase our capacity to meet the growing business, the demands within our testing capabilities, but also with people and having the right competence. And of course, if you are world leading in some of your platforms, you can never stay. You have to always strive for being better, trying to adapt, understand what the future will need, what the customer will need. And that is, of course, a high focus for us. And in Germany, we also have plans and activities to moving up in the value chain, where we think we should be. And at the end of the day, as a small business working on the very global scale, we need to remember cash is actually a key for success. Without cash, we can't do the investment needed. Next slide, please. I used to phrase that we need to be very decisive. We have to take actions and we have to make the decisions, but we have to be very humbled, because what I know today is that I will never know what tomorrow gives or what tomorrow requires. So we really need to combine the two personality skills. Thank you very much for listening in. And back to Stefan.
Thank you, Camilla, for the presentation. I have some follow-up questions. First, regarding your geographical footprint, as of today, most of your customers are European. But if we look at forecast, what will drive the nuclear industry in the future, it is other regions that will contribute to the growth. Do you see that your geographical footprint will change accordingly?
Yes, I think so. Definitely, if we look into the new orders we recently received from China, Asia, of course, Korea, these are, we aim to grow there in a long-term perspective. So yes, I could really foresee that that's the growing for the future, the new markets, especially then in Asia. But I can also see that we have a very strong position in Europe with the decommissioning and the waste programs coming up. But the footprint will change for sure.
And you mentioned here that you have business to do in Europe. Can you mention a bit more about the longevity of your business? Because you're expected to receive an order from Norway, and I know that Norway has not any operational nuclear power plants for a very long time.
That's very true. And I think that's not only significant for Norway, I think that's for many countries that have some kind of nuclear business and nuclear activities, is that the lead times for actually maybe shutting down a facility to actually starting to do things are pretty long, because you have to do a lot of preparations in papers, in authority approvals, and of course preparations of having maybe a facility where you have operations into a more facility where you start to do projects and decommissioning projects. So I think that's very significant for our branch, that it's long lead times. Even if they shut down, it can take many years before they actually start to do something. You could say that if I take our perspective, the good news is that it won't go away. It still is there, and it's an opportunity. But of course, that's sometimes challenging because you don't know whether it's coming year 1 or 2 or 3. Yeah. But that's why you have to have a pretty broad perspective of offerings, and not only for the legacy part, but also for the future part.
I also recently read an article about UK that they will have a new initiative to create energy through smaller nuclear plants. Can you tell us a bit more about that, and if you have a business opportunity in that case as well?
But if I take a step back and look at the SMR, the small modular reactors, you could say that many countries, not only UK, have national programs. And that is also, I think, to make sure that you keep the competence of reactor operation. Meanwhile, you also develop new concepts, which is a pretty interesting concept in that sense. And especially then UK made an official statement that they would run these programs. And I think not only Studsvik, but other companies too have, of course, direct contact with Rolls-Royce, I think was the company mentioning that. And the footprint, and we have a footprint in UK. So definitely we will try to be part of the business. But again, these are long-term lead times and also long-term R&D projects. So I think we have to see it over a very long time.
And if we look into the fuel and material segment, it has been quite an eventful year here. First, you received a big order from Detta that you're starting to ramp up, and then now the big orders from China and South Korea. Can you elaborate a little bit more about the orders and what you see from the segment going forward?
Yes, of course. And it's interesting in that sense that the things we offer to South Korea and to China is very much things we have been doing for many, many years in our hot cell facilities in Sweden, and where we have our world-leading competence in fuel testing and to qualify fuel materials and water chemistry in our facilities. Then, of course, there is a new thing that we have to work on, and that might be the transports and international transport. But I feel very comfortable that we will solve these things because in the past we have had transport from Asia before. So I think these are, again, good programs with long-term programs for maybe 3 to 4 years, which also give us, as soon as the material has arrived to the site, give us a good confidence in having a good and stable planning for our facilities.
And if we go over to Scandpower, are you worried about any conflict of interest or trade regulations? Because Scandpower is a US-based company that now has obviously business opportunities also in Asia and China, for example, when their nuclear industry is growing.
Yes, I would say that in the short term, it's very, very difficult to understand what actually is going to happen, and independently of the president choice in US. We all notice, I think, and are aware of the increased tension between China and US. But again, I mean, we have to adapt. Today we can run business for China, then of course we would do that. And over longer term, I hope, generally speaking, that these kind of conflicts would maybe calm down. But of course, no one ever knows in that sense. But we are following it very closely and, of course, make sure that we don't violate any regulations that might be in the US. And we have our competent staff in US that follow the regulations and see that we apply to that.
And to round off here, you mentioned that you have improved your profitability in the organization quite a lot the last couple of years. You're now performing above your operating margin target. How should investors view that going forward?
Our principal statement is that we, of course, never give any promises of numbers for the future. And I think that everyone knows that when you start to reach towards the target, it will always go up and down a little bit before you get to the stability. But I think that in general, it's, of course, very important that we have strong order books, which we continue to have, and that we also can utilize and perform according to our projects. And that's what we are performing and preparing now. But I think that again, we need to be a little bit humbled. Yes, we have peaked over the last period of time, but I would say that we need some more time before it gets to a very stable level.
Okay, Camilla, very interesting to hear about Studsvik, and I would like to thank you for presenting with us here at ABG today.
Thank you very much, Stefan, and the audience. Thank you. Bye.